I want to welcome you to the 13th Virtual Agritourism Gathering. My name is Lisa Chase. I'm a professor at University of Vermont Extension and the director of the Vermont Tourism Research Center. We developed this virtual series about a year and a half ago as a way to stay connected during the pandemic. And we're now planning ahead through May with at least one virtual gathering each month leading up to the International Workshop on Agritourism, which will take place in Vermont, both in person and online, August 30th to September 1st of 2022. Today, we are talking about reaching your target market. And in particular, we're focused on booking sites for farm stays and farm experiences. We have 4 amazing panelists that I'm going to introduce to you in just a moment. But I want to say that we also have a lot of expertise here in the virtual space among our attendees. In particular, I want to call out Sash from Harvest Hosts, Cassandra from Hip Camp, and Andy, Emma, and Corrine from Yonder. Plus, I took a look through the registration list before logging on today and saw that we have many experienced agritourism operators. It's a very impressive group here in this virtual space. And I wish you could all see each other. Hopefully, when we're all together in Vermont, we'll finally have that experience. But for now, I want to invite you to type into the chat and introduce yourself. Select. If you're willing to share who you are with everyone, make sure that you select everyone and not just hosts and panelists. I think hosts and panelists may be the default, or maybe it just says all panelists. I think that's the default. So make sure you change it and select everyone if you want to share who you are with everyone. And throughout this session today, feel free to use the chat to answer questions and ask questions of folks who are here joining us as attendees. For panelist questions, please use Q&A. And now to give you a sense of who's here in the virtual room, I'm going to launch a poll asking you to describe yourself. So right now on your screen, you should see a question that says describe yourself. Check all that apply. Go ahead and check as many boxes. I know many of you wear many different hats, and we'll share that information in just a moment. And once you've filled that out, if you haven't already introduced yourself in the chat, please tell us who you are, where you're from, and what your role is related to agritourism and farm stays and farm experiences. Okay, I'm ending that poll and I'm sharing the results. You should see on your screen that 45% of the folks here with us today are producers, farmers, ranchers. And then we've got, let's see, about a third are business owners, a quarter are tourism professionals and educators. And we also have about 70% extension service providers, some nonprofits, researchers, and always some others. Now, I've got another poll for you that is specific for this conversation today. So you should see 2 more questions on your screen. The first one is, do you host a farm stay? We're wondering if you already have a farm stay, if you're thinking about it, or if, nope, not on your radar. And if you do host a farm stay, let us know which booking sites you use. And we put a handful of choices down, and I listed them in alphabetical order, by the way. That's the rationale behind the order. So we've got a handful of booking sites listed. We know that there are tons of options out there. So feel free to also type other and list other booking sites that we haven't captured. I'm now going to end that poll. Give people just another minute. I still see numbers coming in. So I'm ending that poll and I'm sharing results. And it looks like we've got about 31% are currently hosting farm stays, 27% are thinking about it, and 42% are not doing it. We're going to go visit all of you at your farm stays. And now looking at which booking sites you use. Airbnb is 40%, followed, let's see, by other. Actually, the winner was other at 42%, which just shows how diverse this marketplace is. And then we've got Airbnb at 40%, and let's see, Verbo at 15, Hip Camp at 12, Harvest Hosts at 6, Booking.com at 15%, and Yonder also at 6%, and then a couple for Glamping Hub. Again, if you put in other, feel free to share what you're doing, who you're working with, who's helping you with booking and reservations in chat. I think a lot of people will be curious about that. Now that we have a better sense of who is here in this virtual space with us, I want to introduce our first panelist. Jen Colby is from Howling Wolf Farm, which is a diversified meat livestock farm in the Randolph, Vermont area. And she's been doing this since 2000. She's had quite a few other jobs while she was doing this, but now is farming full time. I have to mention one of her other jobs though. She used to, she used to travel as a competitive barbecuer, and she has held many events and classes on her farm over the years. In fact, I think one of her gateways into agritourism was combining her love of barbecue with raising pigs. Recently, Jen further diversified her farm's income streams, and just this past year, she set up a yurt, and she's got a tenter site. She is relatively new to being a farm stay host, and don't worry, for you experienced folks out there, we have other people here with lots of experience, but I know there's a lot of people who are new to this, and it's always interesting to hear about how your first year went and how you made these decisions when it's all fresh in your mind. So I'm going to turn it over now to Jen to share about her experience and getting started with the yurt and tenter site.
Thanks, Lisa. Let me just switch over to a little share screen and I can show you what we've got going here at our place. Thanks so much. So our farm is Howling Wolf Farm, and our hashtag is Howling Wolf Farm Stay. And we're just using that for all of the pieces of agritourism that we're doing that's around the farm stay business. And we are a diversified livestock farm. That's actually the core of the work that we do, the business that we do, the education side that we do as well. We manage sheep out on the pasture every day, and we have pigs in a bedded system that isn't out on the land. And that kind of education has been really core to what I have been doing for the last many years. So I've been farming. I kind of describe that as being farming from roughly 2000. Started very small. I'm still actually fairly small, but really over the years have taken it on more seriously as a business over time, including changing to this location about 5.5 years ago. And the dream behind that was actually incorporating agritourism and its different aspects around barbecue, teaching people how to cook, that kind of thing, holding on-farm events, because I've been an ag professional hosting events for many years, over 25 years. And so those, and my husband has a background in customer service too. So that between the two of us, he's a musician, among other things. And so the two of us really felt like hosting people was a really good fit for us in general. And the educational side is really important to me too, just as a farmer in general, but also as an extension professional, just sort of seeing the light bulb moment go off for people. And if we can do that in a way where it's not always going to be an overt education, but it's also going to be just being surrounded by the education, that's a really nice fit. And so we've been doing this a bunch. We've only lived, interestingly, we've only ever lived in Vermont. The reason I even bring up being a multi-generational Vermonter is one of the things that I think is really interesting, is that the folks that we have come from all over the place. And our mission has been celebrating food, family, and farm in the heart of Vermont. And just a few weeks ago, I actually changed our mission to connecting the world through food, family, and farm. And this is actually a painting that was commissioned last summer to go over the bed in our yurt. And I didn't realize it at the time, but this actually is our mission, because it really is about connecting people in all different kinds of ways to celebrate food, to celebrate their families and our family, and the farm itself too. So with that as a core, I can give you a little bit of an overview of the yurt itself. The yurt process has been going for years. We can go deeply into it, but I'm not going to go too deeply, but just to give you a little skim over it. So this was a dream, I would say solidly 7 to 8 years ago, to run a yurt with farm stays. We tried writing business plans around that 3 different times. We did 2 separate crowdfunding campaigns. We've borrowed some money. One of those campaigns was successful, one was not. Learned a lot about that system too. We've borrowed money, bootstrapped it. We took some of my husband's retirement. Like, basically, it's been a dream, and it even took 2 years to build, because we started in the fall with the platform, fall of 2019, and then COVID happened, and lots of things have taken lots more time. So we finally finished it, ready for guests, May 1st of 2021. And the goal there too was to test it out. So we tested it with friends and family and people who would give us an honest opinion, which is huge and I highly recommend. And we opened it to guests in June, 1st of June in 2021. And so we debated a few different platforms. I actually was looking at cross-posting on both Airbnb and Tenter, because I'll talk about Tenter as well. I tried to start 2 projects at the same time, and maybe that wasn't always the most efficient thing to do. But we will talk about the Tenter in a moment. So I just wanted to say that in 2021, we rented the yurt for 132 nights, which was about a 74% occupancy based on what we were hoping, what we were fully open for. And I would say that 95% of them have been absolutely amazing. And it's been a really, really rewarding experience. It was incredible. And it was essential, I would also say, to start with a lower price, to build up, to really work very hard to build 5-star reviews. By the time we got to October, we qualified for Superhost, and have been reinforcing that. And so having people test it out before we got onto a big platform like that was also really key, because we were able to anticipate a lot of things that people thought that they might need and didn't know that they needed, and then found out was already in the yurt, and they're very excited about that. So the challenge is we haven't been able to do that so much with the winter, because we're just in our first winter in testing it. I've been theorizing about what it might need, but we've had some really great guests with good senses of humor, who have accepted like drop-offs of hot hand warmers and things like that, So, and we're working on the logistics. I don't know if you can see over on the right in the upper picture there. We're also running it off a direct vent gas stove, and figuring out the logistics of getting tanks up a road that you can't actually drive all year, and the challenges of that. So it's been fun. We just got 12 inches of snow yesterday, so that's new fun too. Anyway, so that's the yurt and the tent and the Airbnb, which has been going fantastically. And then I also run the sheep all around the yurt, so people get to see that. Sometimes they just never know where the sheep are going to be on any kind of a daily basis. And then the other thing I wanted to chat about was Tenter. And so I, just as a matter of course, I was transitioning out of my full-time job last year about this time, and picked a bunch of projects to do last year. And one of the reasons I tried to focus on finishing the yurt, getting it going, and starting the tenter at the same time was the model for tenter is essentially a turnkey system. And it's a canvas tent and a platform. It is upscale above straight camping, but it's not sort of the yurt level glamping. So it's nice in between. And we thought that might be a nice way to combine the two. And the turnkey factor was really important to me. And unfortunately, it was really difficult for tenter. They had some staffing issues. They had challenges getting folks in our area to actually come and build the platform. And so we went back and forth, back and forth. I have all of the tenter items here. And eventually I took over the contract so that I would build the platform, which is about 85% done at this point. So it's going to get finished in the spring, and we're going to start with the tenter in the spring. So that one was just like a little reminder. It was a little frustrating for me last year, but I also understand they're so challenging for so many folks to be able to get projects started and roll really quickly with them. So that was a good reminder to me. Start those things earlier, start those conversations earlier, and then also be a little forgiving on yourself, because you can't do all the projects all the time. So with that, I think that's my last slides. I'm just going to turn it over back to Lisa. Oh, yes. And the other thing, the yurt in the snow, people have to walk to it. So they are loving that so far.
Thank you so much, Jen. And I just want to remind everyone to please put questions for the panelists into Q&A. If you have questions for attendees, or for some of our representatives from Yonder, Hip Camp, or Harvest Host, put those into chat. And our panelists will sort of try to pay attention to Q&A when they're not speaking, and maybe type in some answers, or we'll see what we have time for in the end. So we just heard about Jen's new experience. Now we're going to turn it over to somebody who's been doing farm stays for a while. We're going to hear from Scotty Jones, who founded Leaping Lamb Farm in Oregon in 2003. By 2006, Scotty realized that selling lamb was not going to pay to fix the tractor when it broke down. So she opened a farm stay business. And soon afterwards, she recognized the need for a unifying website for listing farm stays. In 2010, Scotty launched Farm Stay USA, a trade association focused on supporting and marketing working farms and ranches offering lodging throughout the US. Today, Scotty has a successful farm stay business, and she has around 250 farm stay members in her association, which has grown dramatically, by the way, in the past couple of years during COVID. Most recently, Scotty formed a partnership with a new booking platform, Yonder Global, in order to provide her members with a way to easily take reservations. Scotty, hand it over to you now.
Okay, thank you very much, Lisa. So I will share my screen, and we will get started here. Yes, so I'm going to talk about lodging and activities and how you book those on your site or where you can go. I've been doing this, as Lisa said, since about 2007 is when I started with my farm stay. And this is our farm. This is what you see when you drive in and there's no snow. And the way we do our booking is actually through our website for the most part. That's how we tell people what we do. And you'll see here, this is how we advertise our farm stay, but we also book farm tours. And I want to talk specifically really about booking and booking sites more than what we do, but we are a sheep farm. So we raise Katahdin sheep for meat. And we have a huge garden that we now use to feed our guests with. But we do host our guests in this farmhouse here. We added this about 4 years ago, and it can sleep up to 12 people. It's 6-bedroom, 3-bath, has a full kitchen. This is where we started with our cottage. And kind of like Jen said, we also started out practicing on friends so that we could figure out what we were supposed to do. The cottage is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath with a kitchen. These houses are about 500 feet apart from each other. They both have decks. They both have barbecues. We charge $250 a night for the cottage, and we charge a minimum of $350 for the farmhouse, but then that goes up based on if there's more than 4 people. We are very interactive with our guests, so we really do consider ourselves a farm stay. You're not just coming to, it's not heads and beds. You're not just coming to stay in our lodging. You're coming to interact with us, and we like to show you what we do. Our guests really want that experiential vacation. But we also started doing tours, and especially with COVID. And we do tours for one group at a time. We charge a minimum of $40. Each additional person over 4 is $10. And I will have to say that we decided that during COVID because we were offering 2 tours a day until we discovered that we couldn't get our work done. And we weren't charging that much to start with. We were charging, I think, something like a minimum of $25. So we upped the price. We reduced to 1 tour a day. We do let our guests stay on property afterwards. They're allowed to interact with some of our animals. We have hiking trails, but they do book these through us so that we actually know what we're doing and try to be able to balance our tours and our farm stay hosts, our farm stay guests at the same time. Because of COVID, we also now do virtual tours, which wasn't something I'd ever thought of. And we also book those, but those we book personally. You have to get in touch with us and contact us by phone. And this afternoon, we're doing a virtual tour for Match.com. So there are a lot of different systems out there that we're all aware of, like Airbnb and Vrbo and Booking.com and Yonder. But I adopted a program called ResNexus in 2008. And I should say, because I started before Airbnb, the only other system out there was Vrbo, then called VRBO. And so I adopted this system right here. It's called ResNexus. It's a management, reservation management software program. So you're on my site and this is what you see. And you'll see we have these buttons say book a stay. So you've gone through, you know, kind of what you want to do, and you click on that. And this person has chosen the 20th of April through the 22nd because they saw those dates for free. And so this is what it looks like. But if you look at this URL, you'll see that you're no longer on my site. You are on the ResNexus site. This is important because they're the ones that are handling the CPI compliance, the money. You really don't want to be involved with that these days because of all of the government regulations. So we know that you can book the cottage, you can't book the farmhouse. From the back end, this is what I can see. So I can see that all these dates are booked, and I can see that this person has chosen these dates right here. And then if I were looking at it in more detail, I can actually see, excuse me, who is coming for those other dates. And I'm old, so I keep paper copies of everybody that's coming. But you can see on this list here, we've also got our farm tours right here. It shows what the amounts are. You can ignore the calendar notes. We use that now as something else. And then in terms of these software programs, they often give you all these reports that you can then see how you're doing. And I know somebody asked, you know, who does the best tax summary and whatever. I use this. So you'll see right here, taxes by quarter. But anyway, this is giving me a revenue summary of 2021. And I can see, did I do better? Did I do worse than last year? I can compare my occupancy. I can see anything I want to see. Now, I do also market myself on Yonder. I will have to say I don't market myself anywhere else because we have so many repeat guests. We are at capacity. We can't do any more people, but you can see that on Yonder, you can also put your tours on as well. It's not just a booking site. This is one of our farm stay hosts. She also has been working with me with Yonder, Skurlock Farms down in Texas. You'll see she uses something called Owner Res. This is her booking right on her site, but she's also on Airbnb. She's on Booking.com. She's on Yonder. She's on a bunch of things. And so there are various philosophies about where you want to fill in your extra days and nights that you're not booked. And these calendars sync with each other. You want to make sure you don't double book. The worst thing in the world would be to have 2 families show up at the same day to stay with you. The other thing that I do that Lisa mentioned is I run the Farm Stay USA website. I started this back in 2010 because there was no place like the agriturismo sites in Italy or in the UK, Farm Stay UK, there was no Farm Stay USA. So we like to promote our members. And so this is the homepage. I'm just scrolling through a little bit, but all of the farms have a listing. They all have basic thumbnails that you can just see from the top. We do give travelers the chance to pick specific things. These are the top activities people want to do. But I also do say what a farm stay is, because this right here is clicked on more than just about anything else, because Americans aren't really that familiar with farm stays. This will give you an idea of where our members are right now. We're a little blank in the middle of the country, but those are some pretty big cornfields. And you'll see that we really follow along the coast like this. As far as what a listing would look like, I put my farm in here just so you could see, but so I typed Leaping Lamb Farm, but the site's going to show all the other options. So say I'm booked, you could go and find another place, or you could say I'm traveling up I-5. How many farm stays can I stay at as I go? So that's what a traveler would do. And once they click on a listing, this is just the top part of the listing. We use TripAdvisor to give people that same kind of customer review. So we're not saying how great we are. We give the basics here. There's an overview. You get photographs, you get a map. And then if you want to join us as a member, we have this part on the site. You go to the menu and you can become a member. We are a dues-based organization because we are a nonprofit trade association. So we have some flat fees that you pay. Basically, I used to hate it when people would say, oh, I want to advertise with you, but you know what? We have really good SEO. We've been doing this site since 2010. If you put in, I want to stay on a farm, or I want to stay on a farm in the US, we will come up at the top of the Google search. And so, yeah, I guess we are an advertising site, but we do a lot more. We do a lot of training. If you're just starting up, we have a whole slew of training information. We act as mentors. So that is kind of what we do. I'm quite passionate about farm stays. I know about it from doing it myself, and I know what benefit it has. If you want to get in touch with me, I know a lot about the different booking sites as well. I just wanted to show you kind of what I do on my own. And so that's it. If you want to get in touch with me, this will be shared later. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Scotty. And I will say that a few days after this webinar, once we get the recording posted, we will send out an email out that will include Scotty's contact info, the links that Becky has been putting in chat, and contact info for the rest of the panelists. Next, we are moving across over to Europe, where we're going to hear from Chiara Satine, who together with her brother runs 2 farms in Veneto, Italy. One is focused on grain production, another on cattle, and Chiara is also running Agriturismo Borgo, where guests can experience sustainable farming. Chiara is interesting in that she is using several booking sites, including Expedia, Booking.com, Airbnb, and Yonder, and I believe a site or 2 that's focused on Italy. So Chiara, welcome. Will you share with us how your farm stay experience is going?
Hello, everybody, and thank you for this opportunity. It's Chiara Satine. Can you see my screen? Yeah. Welcome to Italy. So it's I'm speaking from Italy, from the northeast part of Italy. We are located in Venice district, Venezia. So we are about 1 hour driving from Venice and half an hour from Padua, for those who know Padua. This is about me, but you will find for sure my short bio on the material we're sharing. So don't stop so much on this. have a look at a quick view on my business farming activities, who are made about by the avian cattle farm, cereal crops, walnut, planet forest, renewable energy, and an agriturismo, which name is Borgo Buzzaccarini. This was made by restoring an ancient Veneto villa, and the building is supposed to have about 1,000 years, so it's very, very ancient. Just a quick view on the kind of product we are offering, which is based on two main pillars. One is authenticity and the second is sustainability. Authenticity means for us to not actually to offer the guests what they are expecting, but what it is true. And so truthness for us is that everything is truly made by our own hands. And the result is that guests really feels a part of it, a part of our living and working life in nature. Coming to sustainability, we are very attentive to and committed in making the stay as light as possible by an impact point of view. So just to mention one of our sustainability tricks, as I call them, we use a second life approach, which meant for us to bring to new life everything we could. So such as tableware, we have tablewares that can have 50 years or more, coming to bed linen and so on. I used to work with objects that are usually older than me, than I am. And so this is our second life approach. And finally, the storytelling about this place and about the surroundings, the beautiful surroundings we are located in. That is what brings everything together, the previous two pillars together. And so that is the mean by which our philosophy is explained to our guests, through which the guests understand the shape of our services, and by which they are asked to be a part of it, an active part of it. The first thing I obviously planned by the beginning to be on booking platforms, but I didn't want to go online in booking platforms without having my own position on the web. So the first things I created are the Facebook profile, the Google business position, and the landing page. The aims was to start collecting data, because I am passionate of data reading and data analysis, and so it was fundamental for me to have some feedbacks by the web. And first of all, I did this kind of positioning on the web. So after almost 1 year or so of monitoring the situation and the feedbacks from these positions, the results was my guest, and the sketch of my expected guest is 87% Italy. And so the next question was, how do Italians book their stays? And so talking about platforms, where should I be? And I quickly found out that it is a truthful jungle. And once again, through data researches, using basically free access and open source databases like Google Trends, Analytics, and Insights, and direct interviews as well for a relationship with my colleagues, with my guests, and so on. I found out that mainstream's platform were what Italians used most, so Booking and Airbnb. I suspected that, I have to say, but I had the confirmation. So here I am. What's the difference? I didn't thought in the beginning, in the first place, that the two were so different. I mean, if you can notice in the booking profile, there's an agriturismo label, which in Airbnb does not exist. or better, it exists, but as a secondary level description. And so we are forced to mention in the title of the listing, we are an agriturismo. Otherwise, from the researches you do, you don't find out the typology of this accommodation. Another thing I appreciated about Booking is that this label about travel sustainability, this is a badge you can obtain by acting in a sustainable way. And this helped me a lot in communicating our commitment over this point. One of my first concerns about being on platforms was this one, will I be able to communicate all of this? I mean, authenticity and sustainability through listings and booking sites and so on. And I think that such labels are helpful in order to communicate quickly with the researcher on the web about who you are and what kind of product you are offering. Another thing, another difference between the two is that on Booking.com you enter the structure, the property, and not the single room. Instead, in Airbnb, you have to enter every single room instead as a single listing. And that has consequences, I noticed, for what concerns the reviews, first of all. Because on Booking.com, the reviews are all contributing the same way to the global rating of the property. And on Airbnb, every listing has its own reviews. And this for what my experience tells, this created a loop on the listings, because I only am selling always the same room on Airbnb, which is the one who has the biggest amount of ratings. And so this is a sort of loop that is nourishing by an autonomous way. Airbnb is showing prices separately. I mean, the prices you are asking as a host and the prices of services, and I think that is fair. And what I like of Airbnb is that you can switch off the automatic confirmation, because as my colleagues mentioned before me, I want to be sure I am not overselling my property, and this helps me a lot. And I can sleep very, very well when I'm working with Airbnb, because what I receive is not actually booking, are requests. And so it is very much appreciated. I realized actually that costs we are paying for being on platforms are not to be registered as intermediation costs, but as promotional costs. So because since I am on platforms, I'm talking about last summer, so not many years of experience, but since I am on platforms, I doubled my direct reservations as well. And so I understood these things. Coming to some demographics, I deliver a pin for everyone who enters here, and in order them to pin their provenience point in the world. And this is my August provenience map. After August, I stopped because, as you can see, I have an overcrowded north of Italy. And so for the next year, I will buy a bigger Italy and a bigger world as well. This shows that the provenience is mainly Italy, as we expected, Europe, and something from the US. Airbnb is bringing the main portion of foreigners, and is bringing longer stays. These are the two differences I noticed. I noticed for the moment. I didn't know, but I found out being on platforms that I am on the connecting way between Venice airport area and the south of Italy, so that I can deal with people who land in Italy in Venice and start their vacation, for instance, in Florence, and so they stop in this area. The next steps I will do is being on focused platforms. I mean, focused for who we are. Scotty talked about Farmstay US, and this is instead agri-tourist booking platforms, which will be released in a couple of months. And this will contain agriturismo from all over Italy. Agritourist is an association who's gathering agriturismos from north to south, from all over the nation. It is very, very old. This was the first association in Italy to talk about agriturismo. It was founded in 1965, and this will be our booking platform for our agriturismos. Agritourist helped me a lot, even in starting this business, the running and improving the business, because it is made by passionate people who always are on the run. If I think about the COVID situation and about the normative evolution of the thing, I have to thank them. To thank them a lot. What's next? I already actually am on Yonder. I was really fascinated by their focus because the focus is the proximity to nature, actually. So it's not only agriturismos, but agriturismos will fit for sure. I am in Yonder. I am on Yonder with the agriturismos and with an experience as well, which is the guided tour to the villa. And that's all. I would like to ask the audience where do you think I should register, in your opinion, by the point of view of my product. If you'd like to share this information, please write in the chat.
Thank you so much, Chiara, and everyone is welcome to take her invitation to type into chat what you use for booking. If you're planning to visit an agriturismo in Italy, where would you like Chiara to list it? Love to hear from you, not only as a host, but also potentially as a visitor as well. Our last panelist today is Angela Tweedy, who is a master's student in the Community Development and Applied Economics program here at the University of Vermont. And she's also an intern for University of Vermont Extension. Early in the pandemic, we started getting a lot of phone calls and emails from farmers in Vermont who were thinking about offering farm stays. Their events and some of their other agritourism activities couldn't happen, and they were thinking of other ways to connect with visitors, and visitors were interested in safe private overnight stays. So we started getting all sorts of questions about Airbnb, Yonder, Farmstay US, everything else. And Angela stepped up to develop a resource that lists characteristics of different booking sites. And I know you've heard a lot about that from the panelists today, but Angela will now share with you a chart that she's pulled together that shows some of the different characteristics.
Thank you, Lisa. So this chart can also be found by going to go.ubm.edu/comparison table. I believe Becky will be putting that link into the chat. So with this table, the goal was to kind of compile some of the most popular sites. We did this through talking to farmers who are currently listing their sites to see what they prefer to use, as well as looking into ones that people looking to book a farm stay would prefer to go to. We did divide this table up into 3 different structures. We have general, which involves Airbnb and Vrbo. And then we have the more niche sites. This will be your Dirt, Farmstay USA, Glamping Hub, Hip Camp, Tinter, and Yonder. And the thing about the niche sites, they bring people that are looking for more of the experience, we find. Whereas Airbnb and Vrbo, sometimes you'll get families who want to come stay at your place that might just be looking for a vacation away. So they might expect more amenities. And then finally, at the very bottom, we do have the travel subscription sites. And this includes Boondockers Welcome now with Harvest Host. And these are more where people might want to come up to your place with an RV or a tent and stay for the night. And people that use these sites tend to have a subscription and they pay yearly. And then there's no fee for them to stay, but they are asked to check out your products and support the hosts. So one of the things that we put on this site here, you'll notice there's the fee structure. And with the fee structure, it differs. You can split it between your fee or a host or the guest fee. And then we also looked at the requirements. So these are requirements that the sites have that the property must have in order to list on the sites. So some sites can be as simple as you just have to be a working farm or ranch, for example, Farmstay USA, or you have to have a place for a tent. And then there's other ones that require more amenities, such as you have to have an actual property with a home or a cabin that's available, as well as basic amenities such as water access. And then there's also insurance. Many of the sites do come with liability insurance, but it is recommended that you keep your own insurance on top of that. We did mention the support. Some support is contact your phone or email, whereas others have in-app support. And then I did notice some people asking in chat about listing just experiences. This will be covered in the extras on this table. With the extras, you'll notice Airbnb, you can just list a tour if you're doing tours, and you don't have to list an overnight stay. There are a few others. I know Farmstay USA does have their tours on there as well. And as Kiara mentioned, Yonder, you can list your tours. Up here in the introduction, we do mention a few things to think about. You can host on multiple sites, but it is recommended to pay attention to your calendar syncing software. I know Scotty mentioned a little bit about this. It is possible for one site to sync with another, for example, Airbnb to sync with Yonder, but then just make sure that that syncs back. So if somebody does book on Yonder, that it shows up on your Airbnb calendar as well. I know Scotty said she usually keeps a paper calendar as well, just to keep everything updated. There are other designations. You can be designated as things like a super host or a star host on some of these sites, and that'll come with more rewards like high visibility on your listings, as well as cash to spend on your own accommodations. But yeah, feel free to reach out with any questions you have as you're looking through these. And I'll hand it back to Lisa.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank all the panelists and all the attendees. We've been having some great back and forth in chat, and a lot of excellent questions have been put into Q&A, and some of the panelists have been writing in answers in Q&A. We don't have a ton of time left, so I'm going to pull out a question that's been asked multiple times in multiple ways. For example, Julie said, what are the ages of your guests? And some other people have asked about demographics. And one of the questions in registration that somebody submitted is, are there differences in demographics for the different platforms? So I want to put that out to, let's see, we'll start with Jen because she started first, and we'll invite Jen, Scotty, and Kiara to reflect on, share the demographics of who comes and visits you, but also if you feel like there's a difference with the platform, if you're using multiple platforms.
So I'll definitely defer to Scotty as a comparison of who comes for different platforms. I would definitely say that we are pulling different demographics seasonally. We have, families.
Am I frozen or is Jen frozen?
I think Jen's frozen.
Okay. Scotty, we'll turn it over to you and hopefully Jen will come back and join us momentarily.
Okay, so it partly depends on how you present yourself. So for instance, I present myself for families. So we tend to get 30, 40 somethings with families. Now we're getting multi-generational. So we get grandparents, parents, kids, or we get friends and friends. I don't get a lot of 20 somethings here, but if you use a site like HipCamp, you're going to get a younger demographic, more millennials, because they're interested in, they'll be willing to sleep on the ground, put it that way, because they're in camping. And tenter as well, yurts. My offering are 2 houses. So it does kind of depend on what you offer in terms of demographics like that. I will have to say, and I hate to say this, but it's a fairly white collar professional group that tends to come out to us, probably because of our prices. Yeah, so I will let Chiara talk about maybe who comes to her places.
Well, Scotty, you're right. I think it depends on what kind of accommodation you are offering, actually. And for what concerns me, what I could notice is that Airbnb guests tend, the trend is, they are older than booking ones. In the average, and that's maybe why their stays are too long, longer than booking ones, and but they are booking last minute, sometimes last second. I mean, 2 days for 2 nights, and this happens on Airbnb and not on Booking. Anyway, my guests, I understood with this experience, even if it's short, the average age is between 40 and 55, 60 years old, and they are couples for the main part of them.
Thanks, Chiara. It looks like Jen is back with us. Sorry, you got cut off right at the beginning of your answer to, who's coming and staying with you. Would you be willing to answer that now?
Happy to. We had a brownout at my house, and so now I'm running off my phone, so I have no idea what that's about. Anyway, so it seems to be seasonal, and so it's much more attractive to families, not only on, it seems like, on holiday vacations in the summertime, but also because they tend to have more stuff. And they can drive right up to the yurt in the summer when the weather is good. And then what we saw throughout the fall was a shift more into couples. And interestingly, single people in the fall were doing a lot of reflection. And that's kind of what I'm seeing in the winter as well, is we've actually had more single guests than we've had, or couples. We've had almost no families at all. So, and the families are actually starting to book already, and they're starting to book into like April vacation, that kind of thing. So I think that that's been really interesting. And in terms of age, we've actually had several older guests who've been repeat customers. And I think that that's not something that I expected. And we'll see if that proves out over time, is might or may not be a surprise, but actually, like, women in their 50s and 60s would like a little alone time. This is the feedback that I'm getting, is that we're creating a space for people to be able to reflect and be alone. And that seems to be really working for middle-aged and older women. So fascinating.
Yeah, thank you. Angela, do you want to address this question based on your research of the different booking platforms?
Sure. So what I found with a lot of the research, as far as demographics, I'm not sure quite age-wise, but we did find with sites like Yonder and HipCamp, it's people looking for more of the hands-on experience. They're looking to be outdoors. They're looking to be involved. A lot of times when you get people who want to book through Airbnb, they're just looking for a place to stay, whether they're currently traveling or if they're on vacation and found this place near somewhere they want to visit. That's not to say some of them are not looking for the experience, because you can list your farm tours and your experiences like guided hikes on Airbnb, and people do look for that type of thing. But most of the people that are looking for more of a hands-on farm experience come from places like Tinter, Hip Camp, Yonder, and sites like that.
Thanks. I think we have time for maybe one more relatively quick question, which is another question that kept coming up in registration and that I'm also seeing in chat and in the Q&A, is how people get started. What resources, what contacts, what do they use to help them get started? And so what I want to do is ask Becky to drop into a chat a resource that we've developed at UVM about getting started as a farm stay host. And she'll also drop into chat not only that PDF, that resource, but also a website that talks about getting started in agritourism in general. And we'll start with Scotty. Tell us, since you started with your farm stay, you have the most farm stay experience. What made you, other than the broken tractor that you needed some money to fix, what made you get into farm stays?
I had lived in Europe for a couple of years, so I was familiar with the concept. I was trying to find what I could do on the farm. I thought I would be a really good farm stay host because I was new to farming in 2003. So I didn't think any question would be stupid, because it wouldn't be any stupider than any other question I asked. We had a cottage that we had built for our daughter, who we thought was going to stay living with us, who decided to go to vet school. And it was just an idea. And I will have to say, I wish I had written a business plan or something, but I didn't. I just jumped into it and thought, we'll see if this works. And it took off immediately. So that kind of proved to me that there was a place for farm stays in the US that Americans would rise to that. It's helpful. I'm 2 hours south of Portland, Oregon. There are a lot of very foodie people there. This was about food. This was about getting people outside, and they all talk to each other. So 60% of my guests come from Portland. And I'd say 40% of them are now repeats. So I have watched children be 0 and now they're like 14 years old. So it's quite interesting to see that. But I wanted to mention, in terms of how you get started or where you find information, also on the Farm Stay USA site, and you don't have to be a member. You just have to sign up so we know who you are. I have a toolkit that I put together that talks about every aspect of what you need to think about, from regulations to things that you sign up for, to what kind of accommodations you might offer, to how much it might cost, like that, just to get your brain thinking. And basically what it does is you write a little business plan just based on it, but it doesn't have that big, scary business plan idea about it.
That's great. Thank you so much. Kiara, do you want to chime in and then we'll close?
For what concerns the startup of such project, for what concerns me, as Scotty already said, the association was so much important because it offers the support for what concerns bureaucratical issues or the ruling of these kind of businesses and so on, what you can do, what you can't do at all. And so in Italy, there's the rule is national for what concerns agritourism, but it's the district, your region that is ruling in the operative layers. So the support of the association was fundamental. I think I would have been able to do nothing of what I did without their support. They continue support because they are always on the first line.
That's a great point about having the support of an organization, a community, a mentor, people to help you through this.
Yeah,
We
it's
have
a-
so many
you're-
great
yeah.
questions that we're not going to get to. I saw some about safety with animals, lots of questions about prices and increases during COVID. Unfortunately, we're not going to get to all the questions today, but as we mentioned earlier, we will send out an email afterwards with resources and contact info for our panelists. So feel free, if we didn't get to your question today, feel free to reach out to any of us or all of us with your questions. We definitely want to keep this conversation going on this topic, but also on all sorts of other aspects of agritourism. We're going to have these webinars once a month, and our next one is on February 15th. We'll be talking about innovative ways to sell direct to consumers. And we're doing something new this time. In February, the first hour will be in English and the second hour will be in French. Registration is open and it's posted on our website, www.agritourismworkshop.com, which is where you'll find a recording of this webinar in a few days. And you'll also get an email from us letting you know when the webinar is posted. So thank you so much for joining us today, and hope to see you again next month. And let's stay in touch by email and social media in the meantime. Thanks so much, everyone.